I'm excited for this. So, I've been tinkering around with the Blender game engine for years now, since around middle school and college now. But now I've finally decided to crack down and start producing something interesting. So we're gonna do little devlogs every now and again, like this one, that'll show my progress on this project. I can't reveal all my secrets as to what's going on with it, but just for a general idea, it's going to be a real-time strategy game with a pretty hardcore twist. I'd say 50% of the mechanics are real-time strategy. The rest, you're going to have to find out. It's like, the best way I can describe it is if Warcraft and Dwarf Fortress had a child, and then that child had its DNA extracted and merged with a dungeon crawler. Yeah. That's about the best I can do. So it's like that. Pretty unique idea. Maybe there's something like that, like it out there, but I haven't seen a popular one, so I'm hoping to do a good job. As you can see, it's early stages of development, so pardon the awful graphics and the messy code over here. I'll step through all of that to show you guys what's going on a little bit. Maybe give some good ideas to some people looking to make something of their own. So let's go ahead and jump in, and I'll just showcase what progress has been made as we go. Okay. So here we've got a working cursor, as you can see. Nothing fancy, just a spinning object. I'll probably take the spin off later. It's just I need something to indicate it's still active. When you click and drag, this is the nice bit. It draws out an area. And if it finds an object in that area, when you let go, those objects will be selected according to a relatively smart algorithm. You only want objects of a certain kind highlighted, otherwise I can't give them specific commands, right? Then you can't see anything to indicate it now, but I do have it logged to indicate up to 3 clicks. Purpose for that being ability to select various numbers of units. That's not implemented yet. But what we do have here are some basic representations of type of objects that will be found in the game. More will be added later, I'm sure, as I think of things that I'm going to need. I'm just trying to get some basic stuff together. So what we got, these are representative of your units. Here we have a building. Right now it does nothing, but later on, of course, like a classic real-time strategy game, you're going to need to build up your civilization with these buildings and upgrade them, and they'll do things for you. Yep, they'll do that. But for now, we have that. Here we have a peasant unit. It's, again, representative of just a worker class that will perform various features like build buildings, fetch resources, get killed by various enemies and or your own units. Good luck with that. Over here we got soldiers. These are just all the same object, representatives of a soldier class. Later on there will be various types of soldiers within that soldier class. However, they'll all follow the same basic programming anyway, so I see no reason to branch it out yet. Probably later we'll have some range users and other special units that I'll put in little basic representations for. And someday, when the mechanics are decent enough to warrant it, we'll sit down and make some nice looking resources. Still simple. I'm one guy trying to put this together, and I'm busy out of my skull with a new family and college and stuff. So I'm not going to be worrying too hard about trying to make a AAA high-def graphics game. Rather, I'm probably going to lean pretty heavy on gameplay and simple but professional-looking cel-shaded materials. Over here, we've got various resources. I only have 2 at the time. There will be many different resources and objects to gather as this progresses into a full game. However, I just need something to test the programming of keeping track of different types of resources and using them, etc. buy times. Right now, this one regenerates, so you can mine some and it'll come back. Well, I shouldn't say that. It doesn't do that yet, but what I'm saying is the plan. This one will regenerate, and you mine some, it comes back. This one is a limited resource. You mine it, it's gone. I have the properties in place for that, but they don't do anything yet. Over here, we've got enemy units, representative of any given random society that will be doing the same things you're doing, and having the same main goal that you have. You can, of course, kill them. I will, at some point, try and implement some sort of diplomatic route that you can use to try and cooperate with them, and various races will be more prone to doing that with you. Let's go over the highlighting. I borrowed this idea. Implementation is a little bit different, but I borrowed the general idea of how to indicate which units are highlighted from a video by Blueprint Random pretty recently. Excellent work of his on Rectified. I highly recommend it. Go check it out. But basically, when you highlight an object, I just changed the object color to a much brighter tone, multiply it by 8, in fact. And then when you de-highlight the object, it multiplies it by 0.8. No, divides it by 8 over here. That just creates a visual distinction, as you can see with these soldiers here. So you can see, okay, I've got these ones selected, now I want him to go over here. And then he'll do that. When he gets close, triggers saying, hey, I'm here. It actually prints in the console, hey, I'm here. Gonna get rid of that so my computer doesn't slow down. I haven't optimized anything yet. I also have it set to where you can highlight the peasant and tell him go over here. He'll go to that resource, and at the moment he just prints, hey, I'm here. Further functionality, probably next step is getting him to actually interact with it. Let's highlight a couple things. So we got the ability to highlight a selection, and that will, in the code, put them all into a squad. This squad, then, you can issue commands to, and they'll act essentially as one. Again, this isn't optimized yet, so it's basically looping through every squad you have and looping through every unit you have and telling them to align themselves to this waypoint and go there. It's awful. But hopefully later on we'll put in some smarter AI. We'll, instead of using for loops, we'll use index tracking in order to move them anachronistically. And that should save us a lot of frame time and get us up to the thousands of units instead of, at the moment, I can support around 400. That's not enough for what I got planned. So, there's that. Now, if you have this unit going over here, you can also highlight some and remove them from the squad and set them to their own. And if you have a squad active, you can click other units, and they'll join that squad. You can, as I said, you can have essentially as many squads active as you like. You can set the soldiers to focus on an enemy, although at the moment they will not attack him. And just for kicks and giggles, let's come over here, guys. You can even set them to go focus on your peasant. Don't do that when the game is active because they will kill him. There's a reason for that. You might have to execute a guy or two. They're misbehaving. It's going to be lots of fun, a little bit complicated. Let's go look at the code, because I think I've covered everything that I can do in here so far. So what we've got going on here, it's all running out of the cursor, just for simplicity's sake at the moment. As you can see up at the title, this is a prototype, so this isn't how it's going to work out in the long run. We only have a couple. I have a math section that does special calculations that aren't built into any Python program that I'm aware of, like trying to discern if a object is in between 2 points in a square area. And then I have my old method. This is my second prototype. This one's the one that finally looks good enough to show you guys. And then this is the main folder. So, couple of tips for people doing games using Python, getting into this and starting out. Be very careful with variables. They get lost easy. If you say, like, I want to keep track of the unit's health, so I'm going to put it in here. Unit health equals blah, and you link it to that. There's a way to do that, but if you do that, then what happens is it links it here, and if you're using module mode like I do, it'll load it when you first run the module, but then when it gets down to your main functions that are running in the module, and you try to call it, it'll make its own little health variable, and it completely gets rid of the purpose. So what I did to get around that is I've got several lists, dictionaries, etc., including a global dictionary. I'm not using the main global dictionary. I might later, but I want to keep that for saving. Using a main global dictionary to keep track of some of those variables, like what the active squad is, whether you're dragging or not, how many clicks have taken place, and how long you have before the clicks reset to 0, and what state the user is in. The control scheme is basically a state machine where depending on what you have highlighted or what you're doing, I change the user state to one of several, and then depending on what it is, I have those states listed in various lists so that the game engine compares, okay, you clicked the left mouse button, I'm going to check what state am I in. If the state is in the select states, that means do this logic. If the state is in nav states, tell the things to go wherever they go. If it's in command states, then clicking on the unit that I have highlighted already will bring up a command menu. It doesn't do that yet, but the implementation is there. And then these lists are for keeping track of units, so that you can interact with them without looping through the whole massive objects list, because it's going to get massive. I'm probably going to have to break these up into area lists where it'll keep track of which objects are in which zones of the map. Over here, this is just... So what the code does is after it declares all the variables, we got what we need, come down here and we start initializing the objects, and this is where we just break up all those objects into where they go. Puts them in the various lists, and set up the user interface. Then in the mouse move function, we just have our how to calculate where to put the mouse. Then we have our tracker for double clicks and triple clicks. To further explain what I'm doing with that, if you double click on an object, it'll select 5 of the nearest objects and put them in the same squad as that unit. If you triple click, it'll select all the units available on the map of that kind and put them in the same squad. Later on, if you have too big of a squad, it'll only select the max of that and then create another squad on top of it that'll have the same objective as yours. Complicated stuff, we'll get to that. And then this just keeps track of which inputs have been activated. I have a print function to get various data out of it. And then here is where each squad goes through its logic. Every frame, it'll go through the squads and update them all. Hopefully that's not too intensive to where I'll lose a lot of frame rate. If it does get bad, we'll change it from a for loop to an index tracker where it'll go through each slot in the squads and update it. Right now I don't want to do that because this is actually a dictionary, not a list. So the squad numbers are random. They're not sequential. The reason for that is so that I can have dynamic allocation of squads without having to keep track of, okay, which numbers have I filled and which ones haven't I. It just, when you create a squad, it grabs a random number and says, is this in the dictionary? No. Okay, we're going to create a squad, and that's its ID, and it's in the dictionary at that key, and that's how you access the squad. Makes it fast. Then we have our actual function for the user interface. As you can see, I have the click counters to do various things. When you click the button, it'll decide whether you're holding, whether you're clicking, and what version of that you're in. As you can see, I've got a lot of variables that are in slow lookup mode, where instead of saying, okay, here's a variable, it's this location, I'm pulling that location every time. The reason for that at the moment is simply consistency at the startup. I don't want to lose a variable by saying it's this one, and then later needing it and being like, oh wait, I forgot to load it. Those are optimizations, and one of the main rules of Python for you new guys, as if I'm not one, is don't optimize until you're got where you want to get to. If you optimize too early, you lose track of what you're doing. And I've definitely noticed that myself. So we got a deselect units function. Here's where we draw the box. It's actually a straight up rasterizer call, because I didn't want to mess with moving points inside an object. It's messy. Just draw the line flat out. This is the select unit function. As you can see, this is kind of what I'm talking about with the user state. If the user state is in the nav states, do the nav state thing. Else, do the other thing. Deselect units goes through each unit that's highlighted, the ones you've selected, and resets the color and deletes it from the highlighted list, or deletes the highlighted list in total. This is for when you're deselecting all of them. And sets the active squad to none because you no longer have any selected. As you've seen, the squad still do their objectives until they're complete. This is the squad class. I'm going to move this into its own folder later and import it. For now, we're just keeping it simple all in one place so that I can get it working, and then we'll break it up and chop it up and make it nice. Well, that's about it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll get another devlog up soon with further progress. It's slow because I basically just have my lunch breaks to work on it, but I'm enjoying it, and hopefully we can get something neat going. Thank you for your time.